Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do some alla prima wildflowers with you. I'm going to show you kind of the thought process, where do you get all this creative inspiration? How do you do it? And wildflowers are a lot of fun because they allow you to practice texturizing your strokes, leaving some negative space, which we're going to talk about in the design today, and getting different looks to these petals. You can use different kinds of brushes, or like I do, use different kinds of edges of my brush, okay? Let's get into this. So I have a board here. This is just a regular, this is the MDF, double tempered MDF. So you see it's a little darker than what I have here. And it's just a board that I gave a real quick base coat to and then spilled a bunch of color on it and everything. But I'm going to cover all that up, okay? Don't worry about that. It'll be nice when it gets done, okay? So I have that down. Then I sand it lightly with 180 grit sandpaper, and I'm ready to go. This is 11 by 14. And there's this. I brought these frames in. I put up some of these frames. This is a frame that I put onto this one, too. And I love these frames. Sometimes, as an artist, one of the hardest things to do is to get frames. And I like to do real fast paintings like this one here that I did in a class, and a sample in a class. And I've showed it to you in other videos. And I try to give myself a time limit, 10, 15 minutes. And then I like to find a very nice quality, reasonable frame. And, there was a company down in Kansas in the United States that were making these beautiful oak frames. I mean, they were just absolutely beautiful and all finished off. And they were only like $6, $7 each, and they came all complete like this with the glass and a little holder and a back matting and stuff, and all for that. And they've gone out of business, and I've only got like 50 of these left. I buy them by the hundreds. They only got like 50 or so of these left. But sometimes you find a frame, okay? You can find them anywhere, garage sales, you can find them, and you'll be doing your design for a particular frame. So I don't worry about changing color, and I just change the color of the frame, like on that one, that's the same frame. But that frame has to be part of your design process if you're doing it for a specific frame, especially if you're doing smaller flowers. Now, what do you mean by that? Let me show you here. Let me move this over so I can get the frame right into view here just for a second, okay? In design, when you're talking about making a design or drawing something in a design, and I'll just use one of my drawing pencils here. I use big carpenter pencils when I draw, because I go through stuff all the time, and so I use my big carpenter pencils. These last forever, and especially love them on big canvases and stuff, and I paint right over the ink, the pencil, so it doesn't make a difference. But if I come in here and I make a bunch of smaller little flowers, you see, and then I go drop this into the frame, I'm going to paint wildflowers, a whole group of them, the frame wins. There's a thing in design, and if you haven't studied anything about design, it's called design weight, okay? And that is the area that an object takes up within a painting. It's called design weight. The other area where there is no design is called negative space. And as an artist, you need to balance both the negative space and design weight. Now, that design weight, though, if I'm painting with this type of frame, especially painting a smaller flower, that's going to be dictated by the frame, how big that frame is. See, because the frame has a weight to it too, especially if you go to a smaller or a darker frame, a more contrast frame. Let me just grab this one right here for a second. Okay, if I put this flower that I did into this one, and this flower wins, your eye comes right in here into the inside of this, and it wins quite easily. But if I come in here and if I put this little tiny flower right out through here, and you say, okay, I'm going to have that, the frame wins because of what's called design weight here. So what you have to do is, what I always tell my students and young artists is, whatever the width of that frame is, that's got to be the starting size of your center of interest flower. So as I make this circle bigger, your eye starts to leave the frame and starts to come into the size of that particular flower that you want to be. So you want to have, now you can do what we call formal, put a couple of them together and increase the design weight. But these are all things that, you know, I teach a lot in design and in color and everything. There are rules. For some of you that are, you know, you write me all kinds of questions and sometimes you get frustrated and you don't know where to go or you don't know how to do it. Let me tell you, there are rules. There's tons of rules. You know, we're an industry, the art industry, that loves rules, and that's what we call the psychology of the viewer, what we want that viewer to see. There are rules that are there that can help you, okay? You just haven't been exposed to those rules yet. Don't get frustrated or don't ever think you can't do it. Of course you can do it. Anybody can do it. We just need to know the proper way for the creative process. Does that make sense? That's all, okay? So I know, you know, here, and I got my nice mark there. I know my little wildflower, that whatever I'm going to do with the wildflower, it's got to be a little bit bigger. And I'm probably going to use this one probably up about that size, maybe even a little bit bigger. I love to just find all kinds of pictures of wildflowers. And I don't know all of their names, you know, at all. I know this one looks kind of like a cosmos, but, you know, I just love to take these, and this is where I pull inspiration from when I'm going to start something, okay? So now I have an idea. I'm going to put it in that frame. So I have an idea the starting size of my flower needs to be. I've got some nice kind of reference material that I'm going to do here. Now I have to, my thought processes change here to, what am I going to do with my composition? I do a lot of verticals, which is this way, and I don't want to do that today. I'm going to do a horizontal with you. But usually with a horizontal design, what I do is I do what is called in design is called a thrust line. Or, you know, you can use, there's different rules, the rule of thirds and so on and so forth. But I use on this one and you've seen me use St. Andrew's cross many times. That's another design philosophy, but this is called the thrust line. So I bring it up at an angle like this. So if I have a rectangle that's going to be like this, I go basically almost from corner to corner, but I bring a thrust line, and this is going to dictate my flowers today. So I'm going to do something a little different. So I know I want to have a flower. It's going to start right out over here. Maybe a formal one. Maybe we turn. Now how I turn and rock and roll my flowers after this is all my choice, and filling up the design with smaller little flowers that I see. Those little blue ones are really cool. This might be nice to just try one of those bigger cosmos and maybe take one here that's kind of closed up a bit and then fill in with some flowers. But I'll be designing along what is called the thrust line. I want the majority of the power of my design to go this way here. So then when I put it in this nice rectangle frame, the viewer's eye will go boom like this across that. And we can control that with color as well, okay? There's all kinds of rules. Like I say, there's all kinds of rules and contrast rules. And, you know, there are, what I use are the 8 rules of contrast to cause a viewer to look at something first. And I balance those rules in my mind all the time when I paint, okay? So, you know, I was answering an email this morning, and that just really hit me. That one was just saying, I just can't get it. I can't understand it. I can't do it. And of course you can do it, okay? You can do it. You just need to have that pathway. You need to know what is the process. And we'll get there, okay? We'll get there. Give it time, but let's have some fun along the way. All right. So I have my board, I have my colors out here. These are my colors. This is my standard YouTube palette. This is what my daughter, who runs our business for us, she's the one that she goes, this is your YouTube palette now. You just use this all the time. It is Hansa yellow, Darulite yellow, yellow oxide, naphtha red light, burnt sienna. This is pine green, phthalo blue. I will sometimes change it out to sapphire and ultramarine, but then I have my red violet, my quinacridone violet and my white. Sometimes I add a medium white to that as well, but that's basically my YouTube palette. Okay, so let's go in and let's just manipulate the background. I got to cover some of this up now, and we're going to do, oh, I also put out some open medium. I also have a little cap of extender medium, and there's a couple of videos in the alla prima playlist where I explain exactly the difference between the two. But I use this a lot in backgrounds, and then I use this a lot into the painting if I want to keep it wet into wet. And that's kind of what I'm going to do today. And so I'm going to make a gray. I'm going to put the wildflowers out on a, so that if I make blues and stuff like that, they'll show up really well. So I'm going to make a gray. Now, burnt sienna makes it really warm. So does, if I take my phthalo blue and white, burnt sienna is a great color to use with it. Also, the naphtha red light is a great color to help gray down. See it just gray down that, or if you don't know, you do what I do is you add both. And then we'll take some more white here. We'll mix up some extender medium into this. And we're going to just kind of toss some of this color around. And you know, I might have to, by the end of this painting, get some more white out, because I usually put a lot of white out, but I didn't put very much out today. So I thought, well, I'm going to do a quick little painting. I didn't know I was going to draw all over my board. Now I have to cover it all up. But this, if I mix this in here, then this gives me a nice background to work with. And sometimes, you know, when I have this other color, this is a nice background color, which is made from the yellow, a little bit of black, a little bit of white, or you can make it with the gray and just slightly yellow. That's kind of a nice color too to lead through. Now I have my pencil marks there, and if I just push really hard here, this paint will pick up some of those pencil marks and they'll all be gone. I have an idea what I'm going to do now, so those marks will be gone. And boom, just like that. I'll clean up, got a little red spot there, so I just rub that pretty hard. And that'll disappear. And I have this. And here we go. And so I have a nice starting kind of color for some wildflowers here. Let's take our brush. So I'm using, this was the 3/4 inch Fusion Flat. That's one of my favorite brushes. And you'll see me paint large brush roses and all that kind of stuff with it too. It's a great brush. This is my Fusion 8 here, which is a great one to start out with some of our drawing today here. So let's go in with this. I'm going to take a little extender because I'm going to keep my colors kind of thin right now. So I use extender. When I'm feeling that I'm starting my painting, I always start out, I was an old oil artist for many years, and we always started out thin and then built to the thick. And so that's still, whenever I do wet on wet, that still sticks with me. You don't have to do that. It's just a process that, you know, after, you know, painting 40 years, that's a process that stuck with me. So, you know, I do that. So I start out kind of thin. So I would use the extender. As I get thicker, I'll switch over to the open medium, which keeps my colors thicker. And so let's start out by, we don't want to put in just like a perfect thrust line. So I do love to do this kind of stuff, just kind of breaking it all up. And especially if you're, you know, if you're starting out, and this allows you to erase it and soften it as well, but with that color that's there. But this starts to get you casual. So you know, and that's what I want to do. I'm going to paint a nice casual, you know, painting here, and you know, we'll maybe put up a few other little things. So I'll use my stem lines here as a way to start. And I'll just added a little more pine green so they change here. But these stem lines add nice ways for you as the artist to you know, just start to loosen up, and that's what I want to do. I'm going to put a little bit of green around here, and we'll do that. Now I'm going to center up, or not center up, over this part of the third here is where I kind of want that cosmos here. If we're going to do that kind of cosmos flower, I'm not sure that's a cosmos, but we'll kind of do that. I'm going to take some nice violet and some red, and I'm going to add some open medium to this. This will help keep it wet for my painting here today. And even though it's really a pink flower, I'm going to push in and out with this and start just pushing in and out. Just start to shape that flower, kind of where I want that flower to be, like that here, and I'm going to want to push in some colors. Now, you'll see me stroke different ways. So I go in and out like this, but then you'll see me pull across sometimes like this. And I do that because if you go in and out, 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 the whole flower is just going to feel very stiff. So what you want to do every once in a while is break. If you're putting in a lot of one direction, or here going in and out, in and out, in and out, you break that direction with a movement the other way. And there was this master that I was watching paint hair, and he was just phenomenal on how he painted portraits. And he said, especially a woman with long hair, he says, you don't want to just go up and down like that. He said, that will destroy the face. So he pulled the majority of the hair sideways and then set the hair finally a few strokes with up and down. What a great way to do that, because it is a visual way, of doing that. Now, I want to blur some of this. Blur is going to give you lost edges, and I want to have that with the casual edges and stuff like that, so I want to blur that. And then we were going to come right up here and maybe put another one right up here with it. We'll put a couple heavy. Now, they're going to be a lighter pink, but I start out here. And sometimes I start out with colors that I'm not really going to use into the final flower, because that just adds a nice difference. Now, grab my paper towels. I'm constantly wiping my brush and working with some of the consistencies of the paint. Here we go. Now down over here. Let's come right down over here, and let's just come right down here, and we'll drop. Maybe this one is not completely opened up. We don't know yet. And I'm going to be painting the background, but I want to leave some negative space too. Negative space, you can see right now the design feels very open and airy, right? And you'd have to really lower the price to sell it because there's not much to it. But you want to fill up with just enough if you're thinking about negative space. So this is the area of negative space. And you want to fill up with just enough, but not to make it crowded. I have a tendency sometimes in my paintings to just fill up all the way to the outside edge of the frame, and that's not good. You need negative space to breathe, for everything to breathe. And so I want to leave some of that space for that to happen. Now I'm going to take some of this color, a little bit of phthalo, a little bit of white. We'll make those pretty. That's that color of these pretty little guys right here. Those are kind of neat, and they're smaller than the cosmos, and that's another good thing when you're going to paint a lot of different wildflowers. And we'll do this kind of formal up here right now. When you're going to do different wildflowers here, pick out some different sizes so that the sizes will also give you some interest and stuff to it as well. Maybe one or two right out here. That's kind of pretty. And I don't want to fill out too much more than that. That'll be a nice little set of the flowers. And what I'm doing is I'm just pushing and pulling my brush like this to set the area that little wildflower is going to occupy there. And, I like this kind of stuff. This kind of stuff, not only do I like it, but it also sells very well for me. The casualness to it. And that's why I always kind of warm up a little bit, because it allows me to just get in there and get the flowers. When I started, I would be perfect and making every petal perfect, And here's the thing, when you look at a little wildflower like this, years ago I would go, okay, it's got a nice rounded petal, so I'll go grab my filbert brush, something with a filbert that has the rounded head of it, and that makes that petal more round. And then today I'll tack it with a flat sometimes, because the flat makes that rounded shape, makes me have to change the angles and stuff on my flat, which makes the painting more casual. The filbert will paint it perfect. Does that make sense? Now, I use a filbert a lot, and you'll see it in other videos. But sometimes if I want to get something casual, I use a brush that's not easy. And that's another question I got today on one of the videos. Fantastic question. It was, a lot of artists have a lot of brushes, but you seem to paint the majority of your paintings with just a couple brushes. Yes, I do, especially when I'm following Sargent and I'm following casual paintings. Now, I have lots of brushes. I own just about every brush that there is, and because I love collecting brushes. But I tend to use only a couple of them when I want to get casual, I want to paint fast, and I want to paint the philosophies of Sargent, where you use your brush like a pencil, and I do a lot more sketching with my brush more than anything else, okay? All right, now let's go and let's lighten all of this up, and let's make some pretty light, almost white flowers with some of that gray in there. And some white, about here, about a value 8 or so is where I'm going to do. And let's just put in, because sometimes sparking little neutral colors like the whites and stuff are great ways to fill up your design, give a little bit more of a flower or color without sacrificing too much negative space. So they'll fill up here a bit, but yet they still, since they're so soft to the background, they don't feel like they're filling up too much of your negative space. And we always, call that the neutrals. So you always add a neutral color in here to help give you some more design, some more interest, but without filling up too much of this outside space. I want to stay out of here because I want to be able to add some color in there. Matter of fact, let's go do some of that now. So then what I like to do is I'll come up here. I'll even start out here with some of this beautiful color. And let's just start pushing some of that color right into my background. Sometimes you see me do this now. Sometimes you see me do this later. Sometimes I don't remember till the end. Sometimes you get so fixated on a flower or painting something, you forget to lose perspective for the whole design. You're not alone. We're all that way. All of us are that way. I do that all the time. I'll get fixated on something and forget to add some of the basics back into it until I finally see it at the end of the painting. So I love some of those colors going out to there. Let's get some of these greens. Greens are something that you add a little open medium to it and maybe a little bit of extender. I like to work the two together because that gives me, I can vary those consistencies. But we'll push a little bit of this. Now see, I wanted to give the feeling of almost some stuff here. So I'll just go to this big brush with this chisel and see the edges that makes right through there. That just makes those lovely little edges that are not perfect. And so sometimes I'll do it with the small brush, sometimes I'll do it with the larger brush. And there's just all kinds of ways to do it. But I like sometimes that just using the edges and figuring out how to get something in there, pushing this color in there. I like to figure that out, and that just gives you all kinds of interest here. So let's drop a little bit of that, blur that out just a bit here, okay? And I want to keep the whole feeling, what I'm doing right now, and let's just anchor it down here a bit. Anchor means I'm going to hold gives you a nice, especially when you're growing a plant, if you're growing up, you've got to feel like that there's enough weight here to hold all of this, and so that's one reason why you'll see me put darker, heavier color sometimes at the bottoms of compositions. It's all rules. It's all rules, and like I said, there's rules for everything. And it's just like those of you who have studied Dutch with me, and this painting I did in one of my classes here, the Dutch. The Dutch always started out with what's called the middling flower. This is a middling flower. And the middling flower would radiate out, and they'd put it right in the center of their composition because it causes your eye to radiate out in all directions. And then they would take there and follow along with that. But that middling flower is there. And so you'll see that in a lot of the Dutch masters of the golden age, the 17th century. You'll see a lot of that. And so there's rules, right? There's rules. There's ways. There's ways to do all of this, guys. Okay, let's go in and let's start adding a little more contrast to that color. We'll go a little darker here and take this around. Let's pick out what we want as a really kind of an interesting area here. And so we'll push that color. See, I like this blurred. See, I like that, especially in a casual design. I like that kind of interest And you get it with the acrylics by using the open medium and that extender and working it wet like that here. And we'll just kind of push some of those colors around. Let's get that even a little darker, a little red violet, maybe even a touch of blue here. Let's get a nice heavier dark right up in here and let some of that pull down. Now see, what's that dark do? That dark's causing you to come right into here. And that's, you know, kind of like where I want you to say, now that's kind of a heavy, heavy dark. So I'm going to warm up some of that with just a bit of sienna here. And play the colors. And you get this, you get these looks, guys, by, you know, practicing and just playing the colors. When you're at the end of your painting day, and, you know, I put out my paint, and you can save it, and I show you how to save it. But a lot of times, I'm a professional artist, and I don't like fighting my paint. And if I've painted for 8 hours and stuff like that on the day, you know, I rather than trying to save the paint, I'll use it up. And I'll go grab a board, and I'll paint something really, really quick, and I'll use up my paint, okay? And when I'm using up that paint, I'm actually practicing techniques and trying color combinations and stuff like that I will use later on in maybe other paintings and stuff. And so I know these colors work together and how they work together because I do them, and I've seen them, I've practiced with them. And so that gives just nice, beautiful colors there like that. I need kind of something here, either a leaf or, you know, or something else. Now, if I'm going to have like a yellow center or something in the painting, that might be kind of nice to push a little yellow or a little idea like that through. See those beautiful colors? And boom, oh, I like that yellow here. And just might leave that spark of yellow. It's kind of fun. It's very, very contemporary, and it's very fun, but it's, you know, and I'm looking for areas of interest and things I'm going to, you know, be doing here. You take a look at that cosmos there. See, it's got, cosmos has kind of a yellowy center there, so we can just drop some of that right in there. Just push it in. So I'll go heavy texture, lay it on, tap it with the edges of the brush to take it off, and I get this center that is almost impossible to copy again, and I don't want to be able to copy it. I want it, each flower, they'll be the same type of flower, but I want them to be different, see? I want them to be a little different. Let's take a bit of that quinacridone. Don't forget to always add your open medium if you want it to stay wet, and we'll push a bit more of the dark around there, maybe a bit more of that dark coming out this side here. We'll let some of that just kind of blur out there, okay? And you can, if you squint real hard, you can kind of see a cosmos in that, you know. But and that's the thing is, I see, well, a lot of people always say, well, I got to get my brush more casual. How do you get more casual? Don't paint perfect yet. Just put in movement and color, and then we'll start to slowly refine the petals, okay? So don't get into the painting of a petal of the flower yet. We're still in the moving color stage. Let's put a bit of that. Let's, matter of fact, even strake a bit of that out here. That's kind of pretty, just pulling down like that, a little bit of that here. Let's go over and look at some of the darks with our blue flowers. And they can go more to the blue violets and stuff here as well. So we'll go more blue violets here. Put a little bit of that open medium into that. Maybe even a little bit more to the violet side. And we'll touch some of those colors. That's a beautiful contrasting color in there with that. And this, you know, many times when I'm painting like this in a casual, I'll only do one or two really recognizable flowers. And you've heard me say this before. The rest of them are just there to carry color. That's all they do, is they carry color. And I'm more interested in carrying color and than anything else. Now I'm just going to wipe that color off. I'll put a little extender. It's a heavy color. I mean, it's a powerful color. So I want to reduce it in my brush just a bit. Little extender, just reduce it. Okay. And now let's go back here to a nice pretty, let's go slightly warm. We'll mix up our open medium in here and some white. We'll mix Now, don't mix too much. So see how that's kind of modeled? That's how I like my brush to do it. That's what I call the modeled brush here. And I'm going to start right out over here, and I'm going to pull in some of the petals of the flower here, and I'm going to change my color up. Maybe a little bit more of the quinacridone comes in here as I push that in. Now I got those two right there a little bit too close together. So I'll just push. I'll push in and out, and here I'm going to take this out. So I'll push out here and wipe my finger. Don't forget to wipe your finger if you do this. And push in and out here. This is nice and wet. You can see how wet it is. It'll put in this nice cosmos here. Let's get a little bit more of the violet here. Maybe even a little bit of this stuff here. Now you can pull out or you can pull in. I'm going to shorten these just a bit, which will cause it to turn that way just a bit more, because I want the power to go this way. Now, that's not perfect. This is my first idea, my first look at it. And I don't want to do it perfect yet. Let's model this a little more. Slightly different colors. Let's push some right up here. And a little bit different. Only stroke a few times before you change the color. Otherwise, your flower will be flat. You want some different tones, different colors. Let's get some of these blues in there. So we get some of these different, prettier colors in there, see? And then we'll push in and out. We can push that out a little wider here. Now in the cosmos, you know, when you look at the photo, you'll see perfect petal edges and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to do that. I want this just a bit different. Now, I don't really like these two other than they're pretty much the same. So I'm probably going to change this area right in here because they're too much the same. So I'm going to back it back out first with some green that I'll have right there, which is into my base there. And you can see immediately they start to change. See how much more interest that composition gets. So I'm always looking like, did I do two flowers together? And that's my habit. I'm a left-brain painter, okay? So I can tell you how to fix it because I do this all the time, okay? If I notice it, that they are, you know, they look too much the same, then I've got to change it. And that's what I want to do here. So I'm going to back it out here. And I will probably turn the petals up here. But you can see immediately how that changes the composition from those two that were the same. Now, I'm probably going to come back out here and add a little bit to that poor lost little blue one there. Here, I'll add that back up into here because that'll be a nice change right in here as well. This little blue one coming right in there as well into that area there. So let's get rid of some of that extra color. Okay, I'm just going to push a little extender into that. Usually I do that when I go over, especially over to my yellows that are very sensitive to the, you know, to other colors. I'm just going to reset some of my centers here. A little more color. I want a little bit more interest in this one than this one. So I might even reset some violets using just a corner of my brush. Here, reset some more violet colors here that have more interest, more contrast to it. And let's just reset that yellow a little brighter. We might even go a little diarylite, which is what I look at that diarylite. Boom, there it is. There's the center. Okay. And if I don't paint it like a cosmos anymore, it's a wildflower. It just becomes a wildflower. Okay. But it's fun. You got to have fun. You know, and I'll put a little, look at that sunshine of that Hansa. Now that just came right in there. And you can, you know, you'll see me a lot of times, you know, tap that around a bit as I build flowers and build centers and stuff. So you'll see me model it. Now I don't want to use quite as much and quite as much tapping on that one. I want that one to be a little softer. I want you to come into here, okay? But I do like that. Boom, there it is, you know, right in your face. There it is. Now those little blue flowers have little whitish kind of centers on them. So let's add a bit of that pushed in and out here. Just an idea. I need just an idea in these back flowers here of that white, that light color. But this one, I need a little bit more precise because he's right up front. And he will control what those look like. In other words, you see this one a little bit more precise. The others can be all a little lost and more casual because you'll see these flowers as that one because they carry the same color. Now let's put a little yellow into that center. He has a little bit of yellow into that. That's kind of nice. That's kind of a pretty little color in there as well. Let's add just a whisper to say we did it back here. There. And so now you see that this flower is going to control those. And I don't need these flowers to be perfect. I want this one. I want your eye right in here. Okay? All right. Now, let's control a little bit more of our warm cool. So I'm going to push some more cool color, some more of my quinacridone here, out on, don't forget to add your medium, out onto this side, maybe to the low side here. That pushes in a little bit more warm cool contrast. Maybe especially a little more red violet right there where I want that red violet light contrast with the center of that guy right there. That'll be kind of nice. We can even you can do that harmony thing, painting for harmony here, and take a bit of that, even though you don't see it on the blue flower, take a bit of those violets right into your blues here. Oh, and I have this one. Why didn't you tell me I had this one out here, guys? You gotta help me out. I forget about this sometimes. We'll push this one in and out. Just give it some nice lost edges here. Lose those edges. We'll go reset some yellows, nice soft yellows. And it just does a good job of just kind of bending your eye down there like that, doesn't it? And push that in. Push this in here. Boom, boom, boom. But you see how fast I paint that? That's how fast I do like to paint. I'm slowing down to teach you guys, and sometimes that makes it more stiff, and I don't care for the painting quite that much, but you know, teaching is what I love to do. So, because I understand your frustration when you can't do something, and I was that way for a long time, and you had to figure out how to go about doing something. I'm going to put a stem in there, and that stem is going to be more of a directional thing here, and it does do. There are certain things in certain designs they call you put in more specific directional lines that help you with your movement, and that just helps my thrust line there. There's, like I say, rules, all kinds of them. I think I'm going to give myself a new paper towel here and just pinch wipe a little bit of that color out. That's all I do is pinch wipe it, because I'm working alla prima. And I want to keep this all wet, and you can see everything's all wet, okay? I want to keep it all wet, so I don't want to add water. I don't want to go in there and rinse my brush in that water, because I've just introduced, water into my system, and I don't want to do that. Okay, let's go in. Let's set this cosmos up here in the front. Let's get some more light here. Let's set some light petals, and you can see it's got all kinds of this light, and you can streak it and stuff like that a bit if you want. But we'll come back out here. We'll pull this down. I'm going to reset my brush and pull it just a bit more like that. That's kind of a pretty coloring. Maybe take it in and out a bit like that. Now, I'll use slightly different way on my brush. This time I'm going to use the chisel. So this petal doesn't come out exactly the same as that other one. That gives me more interest. So I've just pulled that right across. And for this one, and this is very important, you saw me pull this one, then set my brush again and pull this one. This time I started here and I pulled all the way across without reloading my brush. And if you want to paint flowers that have a lot of interest, you need to vary that technique. You need to, and that's what a problem of mine for a long time is I had this habit of constantly touching or doing 1, 2, 3, load the brush, 1, 2, 3, load the brush, 1, 2, 3. And I don't want to do that. So I want to paint each flower a little bit different, each petal a little bit different, so they have their own individual look. See? Now this time I'll change colors, maybe a little bit more over here, maybe push that edge in, and maybe we'll push it right there. And I think it needs a bit more onto this side, so I'm going to go back, state it again with some light, and push that right up there till I get a petal that I like. Down over here, we want these to go more red, violet, darker, maybe a bit of the blue. Let them change colors here just a bit, and we'll paint them faster. Here you'll see me paint them in and out here so they don't have as much interest. Okay, now I'll come back and look at that and say, okay, this needs to have maybe a bit more interest, so I'll push a little edge of the light there. Let's push just an edge right here into that one. Maybe a little bit of that edge pulling out here, this way, so that it makes it all a little bit different, see? And we'll just touch that together. Now, I got too much light. I lost some of that contrast there. And so I'll just push in some of my dark back into that again. Right in there like that. And I like that one. There, so you can see you get some different kinds of petals going in there. Here, let's come back up. I want your eye to lead here, so I'm going to pull that light again. Maybe just one. This one has to be softer, so maybe every petal I'll pull with both without reloading, so that the interest stays a little bit softer. So this is a little, not quite as streaky, not quite as much as this one. This one has a lot of power to it. This could have a touch more power onto that one side there, just like that, but that's about enough. Let's soften this out, change this up, push in and out. Here, they don't, this one really, let's get a little bit of that medium in there. This one really doesn't need that much. Well, needs a little bit more than that, Dave. Needs a bit here, there, like that, for that sets in there, like that. And let's grab just a bit of this here, bit of this light, just tap that around out here like this. Okay, so now we've changed it away from the cosmos a little bit, but it's pretty. Okay, so now let's come into here, right down over here. We'll push these colors, phthalo, right into some of this, violets and light. And let's just push a bit of that in here. I'm not going to do perfect rounded petals like you see there on our reference, because I just want a few of them there. Now let's switch over. We're heading to the shadow side, and don't be afraid to just dump right down into more of a shadow color, right down over here. Maybe not that quick, but dump right down into a shadow here, and do more of a darker, different color. So you see the flower goes out into the light. Maybe right in here for contrast, we'll do even a little bit more. I just love that train whistle. It's one of the reasons why I'm going to permanently relocate out here to Sidney, Nebraska, because I just love listening to the trains. I love that. As a boy, I grew up listening to the trains. My father worked for the railroad, so we always lived around trains, and I just love the trains. Something about the trains. So let's get this a little bit darker right in there. There we go. Push that around a bit, break up that color, get some of that movement in there. See, it makes a nice, pretty little movement there. Let's push some of that color right out in here. You know, you don't have to make any, you know, the viewer's going to see it as the two flowers because they're, you know, that's the same color. So they're going to know it's that flower. You don't have to. You're an impressionist here. You know, you're painting the more impressionism, so you don't have to make it absolutely perfect here. It's going to be fine. You're painting for color more than anything else. Let's just reset some of that light so that looks in there like it's okay. There, like that. And boy, you know, so for so many years I did the decorative painting. That was really hard for me harder concept for me to grasp, that I don't have to make every petal perfect. Now, I'm going to pull dark down this way here, and so that turns that flower just a bit, and I like that. I feel that's a little stiff right there, so I'm going to thin out and just push another little color or two right down in there, and That'll be fine there. I'm going to put a little more with the corner of my brush, a little bit more right into that flower. I like that little blue flower. I like how that all pulls together there. Now, you can lighten up the cosmos here even more, or we can start plain. Let's thin, so let's grab, we want thin, so let's grab our extender. You can start playing more of those colors a little bit further out like this, and start to carry the color. So I start to look at, I'm going to leave a lot of, and I don't let me forget that one. I don't know why I'm doing that today. I'm forgetting. I'm going to go back and fix it right now. Why I'm forgetting that one today. Boy howdy. I tell you, start thinking about trains here. Just off of that there. And let's go soft. Soft, because it's an outside flower. So soft. Here. Very soft, very gray. Push in and out slightly. Here. And we don't need all that much into this flower. It doesn't need to be that much. Here. Push in and out. Here. Okay. And let's go a little bit softer. Now I can do like the other one and push the darker petals up front, which I just might do here, but I want to really blur out these outside ones here, so this flower stays very soft to the back. Then I'll push, I think I will do that. Take a bit of my reds and these pinks here, and slightly darker up front here, which will help it turn just a bit. Blur that out there like that. It'll help that turn just a little. We'll put a bit of that color into the back petals here. Now, see, that's off. That means that right there is not a good thing because it's distorting the flower, and I don't worry about that. I'm going to take just some background color, some light violety kind of color or bluish kind of color, anything that's in there, and this is the negative painting. You come back and you take some of it out until it starts to disappear. Now I'll use the softer colors because I want this to stay soft out there. I want your eye right into here. Then we'll take a bit of thin green here and just drop down that little bit of green here. Push a bit of that green around so it looks like you know what you're doing. We'll push some of this soft here around like this. We'll push some of that down, and that's kind of neat. That's just kind of drawing in there. Now I've lost some of my light little flowers, so I'm just going to come back and add some lights. They can be pinks, yellows, blues, all kinds of ideas here. Just little flowers, and a lot of times I will just make quick little stabs, touches with some thicker paint here to suggest them here like that, because that's all they need to be, is a suggestion. They don't need to be perfect. I'll use the chisel to kind of slide right across like that. So we'll pull in, pull in, pull in, chisel across to make them appear like they turn, see? We can even fix up this area here by putting here. Now I don't want to get so, I start my little habit here of filling up too much, so I want to be careful. Let's drop one right up here. And let's just maybe one more little bit, just a little touch of the color down through here. Don't need the flower as much as I need color. Let's go in with a yellow oxide and just add a fun little touch to them. Right, like a little center here. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. And yeah, that works. And I do like that yellow. Boy, look at that. I hit that red, dropped it right there. That will require a rinsing of the brush here. That will require that. And now I got a nice red mark out here too, so we'll just incorporate that like that was supposed to be there. Let's take a bit of the green, maybe a bit of a yellow green. Make a soft. Sometimes I'll make more specific petals here. You know, a real shaped, perfectly shaped petals. You know, of little leaves and stuff. I mean, not petals, leaves. And sometimes I leave everything more suggestive, which I really like suggestive stuff. But boy, howdy, that's such a pretty, these two yellows and this green, such a pretty little contrast right down there. See that color? This is where I do like that, some of that color coming right down there. Let's just add a little touch of that there. Little touch. Carry that around. You can make more specific leaves. Like this might be a nice spot for a slightly darker, thin pine green, burnt sienna, some yellows, a little thin, more specific leaf shape. And I'll let it sit for just a second. This is what I like to do. And then I touch my finger and roll it off. And it puts that little light right up there. Just like that. And let's put one right over here. And roll that off a bit so it blurs out. And I like those. We'll add a few little just marks to those little guys out there. And a few little just touches of the color here. A little heavier. Sometimes this is where I really like to put in a burnt sienna touch right down there like that. I like burnt sienna into the painting, drawing your eye into the painting, going this way. It's a pretty color, and sometimes if I do that, I'll come back and just get a nice burnt sienna, especially if I have any kind of yellows. I'll push that burnt sienna right around those edge of those yellows and stuff. And if I wipe that out too much, I'll just tap some of that back in. But I love, I really like the burnt sienna and the yellow combinations of those warms, especially going against these cooler pinks and stuff that we have going on there. And I think maybe I'll just take some of this lighter white and pull out just a bit, give a bit more to this flower right out there. They were a little too much the same. And they still are just a bit too much the same. But my eye comes into here and moves up this way. And that's kind of what I like about this little painting here. It just comes in and does that. And so I think that's going to be okay. Let me take a gray and take out some of this here. This is the negative painting. I'll come back in and touch and take out and adjust. And that adjusts that just a bit better. I could have a touch more color like on this rolled edge right here. Just pull across like that. That'll help turn the cosmos, but it gives you a nice contrast here. I like that. And if I feel the color's too isolated, right now it's kind of isolated because it's in here, but you don't see it that much. I will come back and add it here and there because it's a pretty color. So I just come back and stroke through these again, loosening it up. And see, this cosmos that's here, it doesn't, I just love this color. It doesn't need to be perfect petals all the way. Now we can add just a touch more here. But I won't, let's go a touch lighter. But I don't have to have perfect petals going all the way around it. That's enough. That's enough for, this part of the painting. It's more than enough. Now, sometimes then I'll look and I'll say, okay, did I isolate my blues too much? And that's just always a real nice to come back and, pop a little bit of the blue right into your painting in a few areas here, just to carry that blue color. And you can even just come right up by the flower, take even part of the flower out. This is contemporary. This is what a contemporary artist would do. Just take out some of that, track some of that back down here like that. And that just looks pretty nice here. And sometimes just come out here and add a mark to the background. Just add pretty marks, pretty color marks back out here. Because it's, it fills up with color without filling up too much with design here. Fills up with the color. Now, let's see if we hit our goal here. Here we could take this, push this out of the way, keep my frame out of that. And you get a nice little frame for a nice little nice little painting. This is where, and you see your eye, the flower beats the frame because the flower is bigger than the frame, so it's going to beat that, and it's going to carry more contrast. And you know, if I feel that it needs a little bit more, I'll go back into my violets and really push in some of those dark contrasting colors, maybe some of those dark contrasting colors even right up into here, right up into these areas that are right there by that. But I just like little color marks. I just so enjoy that, and watching some of those color marks go through there. I could pick up just a tiny edge like our petal edging technique and just give a bit of an idea of that petal there. We can do that out here too as well, right out there like that. It makes a just your petal edging technique that we learned from our roses and stuff. You could use that right out here just to put little sparks and some more, you know, additional color here into it. But it makes a nice, fun little painting. And I know I took them. Usually a painting like this will take me 25 minutes or so. We're a little over that, but this is YouTube. We can take as much time as we want, okay? And I hopefully that you've enjoyed that. So I go back and balance that. See, your eye comes in here. Why? Look at the light yellow to the dark. This yellow is light, but it's not as much of it. And so your eye, you know, you want your eye to kind of fade out that way. I want it to come in here. And I could add more darks in here if I feel that it doesn't do that. And I think it is doing that. Now, I would probably darken the frame just a little bit, but that's probably a personal choice. Usually what I do is I'll take my palette colors and then I'll run it over the frame, and then I know my frame harmonizes with my painting, okay? So there you got it. There's a nice little way, a little bit, just a little taste of design, a little taste of balance and harmony, negative space, leaving it there, put it in a thrust line. There are ways, guys, to everything, okay? There's pathways to it. And this is like I am. I mean, I studied chemistry. I was never an artist. I never took a single art course at all during my schooling years. And, you know, I started to learn basically what I do is I follow formulas of design and balance and weight and color. And that gives me my ideas to do, you know, to do what I do. Okay? Then I just have a little bit of fun. And that's the key to everything, is having a little bit of fun. All right? Okay. If you like this, please click the like. Please click the like. You know, it's not that hard. Just go click. There's a like. Okay, click like. Okay, and leave a comment if there's something you want to see. We're, you know, like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of things, but I thought something fun like these little wildflowers would be great. And we'll go do our. We're going to mix them all up with our landscapes and our seascapes, and I know everyone's asking for a portrait like the girl that I painted back up there, the girl and stuff, and we'll get to that. We will get to that. But there's a few other little things I want to show you too along the way, okay? All right. I'll see you guys on the next one.